Good morning, everybody.
Johnny Nelson.
Welcome to the Arnold Festival. I'm Johnny Nelson, and I'm a biggest fan of Eddie Hall as you are, so I'm quite looking forward to this. It's going to be mad. Let's just get on with the action. Welcome on stage, the world's strongest man, the Beast, Eddie Hall.
Action.
Eddie, first of all, congratulations on putting on such a mad event. I had actually no idea how big this was until I got it. It's like going to Disneyland.
Oh, it's incredible. 60,000 people this weekend, 20,000 people here today. I know there's going to be a few similar faces with weekend passes, but it is amazing to see so many people in one place, especially after the 2 years we've just had. So, yeah, I'm very thankful that this is all pulling off, and, you know, it's so nice to see smiles on people's faces all over the place. And everything was going great. You know, life was fantastic. I was doing really well at school. Swimming was going great. I had a fantastic family around me. And then it was about, I think it was about age 13, I started suffering with anxiety, depression. Now at that age, and especially back then, we're talking 20 years ago, very unheard of. You know, and you mention it to anyone and you are laughed at, and I mean that, you were laughed at. You mention it to a friend, it's all fucking man up, stop being a pussy. You tell a teacher and you're laughed at, and that's the truth. You were laughed at with mental health 20 years ago. And I started suffering with this anxiety and depression, and on the back of that, you start to blame the world. You start to blame everyone around you for all your problems. And I started to get in a lot of trouble. You know, I was in the police station every single week. My mum and dad have to pick me up at the police station. I started drinking, doing drugs, you know, getting into fights constantly. I ended up being expelled from school. I got chucked off the GB swim squad. I managed to get a girl pregnant. My nan was diagnosed with cancer. Just a whole, like, massive implosion of events in my life all happened at once. And I went into this dark, deep, horrible hole of depression. I ended up being diagnosed by a doctor. So I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety. I was prescribed Prozacs. I was seeing a psychiatrist for 2 years. That was a very, very tough time in my life. And for about 2 years, I was sat at home whilst all my mates were at school studying for their GCSEs, L5, and watching The World's Strongest Man. It's like, I think you can beat these guys. Like, I think you're stronger than some of these guys. So it's my brother, my middle brother James, who entered me into my very first Strongman contest in Blackburn, Manchester, when I was 19 years of age. And I competed against 40 guys, you know, all adults. And I came fifth out of about 40 grown men. And I remember walking away that day, and I just thought to myself, wow, you know, what a buzz. That was an amazing experience. And it was something that, it's all right, you know, training for mental health's great, and keeping you good and keeping you sane, but it gave me a bit of purpose. You know, it gave me something to sort of drive for even more and set a goal. So I set the goal. On that first competition, I came back from that competition, said to my friends and family, I put it on my Facebook, I look back, I am going to be the world's strongest man one day. Watch this space. And that's where the journey began.
That was going to be my next question. So when you actually reached that goal, when you actually reached that dream, then what? In boxing, what usually happens is somebody wants to be a British champion, European champion, world champion. When they get it, that hunger, that desire seems to wane away because they've been the hunter. They know what they wanted. So when you became strongest man, did it wane for you? Did you think, right, what's your next fix? What are you going for next?
So, I mean, I set the goal to become the world's strongest man at 19, and that's a hell of a goal to set yourself at 19 years of age. And I chased it for 10 years. You know, I went through a hell of a journey. I went through a hell of a journey of, you know, loads of competitions. I used to spend all my wages on protein shakes and going to the gym and recovery and physio, all these things. I was obsessed. And then we get to sort of like, I think my first World's Strongest Man was 2012. But at this point, I'd never, in 2012, I had never touched a bit of strongman kit in my life. I'd never done any Atlas Stones, I never touched a lager, yoke or anything. And I walked into World's Strongest Man thinking I was going to kick everyone's ass. And by fuck was I wrong. So I turned up, I won a few events, but I also really bad lost a lot of events as well. And I walked away from that and I thought, wow, you know, I nearly made the final. So I was about the 15th strongest man on the planet at the very first World's Strongest Man. And for me, that was the bite. That was the thing that was like, right, I can do this. If I can compete at the World's Strongest Man with the big boys at such a young age, then I can be the World's Strongest Man. So if anyone who follows me and follows the sport of strongman, this motherfucker wronged me in 2017. He called me a cheat. Well, we're going to settle that score. We're going to settle it like a man. But where I come from, if someone wrongs you, you don't go on the internet and call him a fanny or whatever. You don't say he's bullying me. From where I'm from, you go find that motherfucker and you put this in his face. So when he offered me that fight contract, by God, you know, I think I signed it like 20 times. I couldn't wait to get going for this training. And straight away I signed this contract. I put a boxing ring in my basement. I've got hyperbaric chambers. I'm back on the recovery. I've got a spa built in my garden. I've got swimming pools, hot tubs, saunas. And I'm a full-time athlete again. And I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it. It was probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Training for the World's Strongest Man was great. It gave me a goal. It gave me drive. It kept my mental health, you know, sort of channeled. It helped me. You know, it stopped me swaying off that path and kept those demons away. Then I had a little bit of a dive and all those demons started creeping back in. This fight contract, back on track. Only this time, I've got the finances to do it even better. And that's the beauty of this. So I'm taking this even more serious than I did for World's Strongest Man 2017. Every single penny I've got is going into the boxing. Every living, waking moment is going into this boxing. So believe you me when I say I'm going to smash this guy's fucking face in. I remember, man, this is tough. Like, I've trained my whole life for this moment. This is how confident I was. I fucking put a deposit down on a really high-end car. I'd already spent the prize money before I'd even won the competition. I'd already spent the prize money. So for me to sort of walk into this competition, break my hand, and then for the organisers to say, sorry Ed, I think you should step aside and let someone else compete. And I did. You know, I said, right, okay, I'm out. I went back to my hotel room and had a bit of a cry. And then I rung my wife. And just like she did in 2014, I said to Alex, babe, this has happened, I broke my fingers, I'm gonna have to pull out a World's Strongest Man. What does my wife say? Oh, boo-hoo, has Eddie done a boo-boo? You're gonna pull out the competition. So it was actually my wife taking the piss out of me that made me think, right, fuck you. I'm gonna compete one-handed in the World's Strongest Man. So I went back out to the yard. The reserve guy was jumping up and down with ecstatics. I said, you can fuck off, I'm back in. And I competed in the World's Strongest Man with one hand, and it was one of the most painful, darkest, horriblest experiences I've ever experienced in my life. Like, every single thing I picked up and touched, my hand would hurt. There were even events where I was doing presses and cleans, and tears were coming down my face. I wasn't crying, but my body was crying. Tears were coming down my face whilst I was competing. I finished the competition and I was the third strongest man on the planet with one fucking hand. And that for me was a testament to a man's willpower. And that's why I came back at 17 and won it. Repeat that for me, please, Johnny.
You basically said, is there something you believe in that everybody else thinks you're batshit crazy in believing? His words.
Is there something I believe in that everyone else thinks I'm batshit crazy? Well, I'll give you an example of people thinking you're batshit crazy. So in 2015, I said to the strongman community, I'm going to lift half a ton off the floor, 500 kilos. The world record at the time was 462 kilos. So we're talking 38 kilos above the world record, nearly 8%. It's like Usain Bolt knocking nearly a second off his 100-meter sprint. Impossible. And that's the word I kept hearing, impossible. Pretty much batshit crazy. I said it publicly, I said it to friends, to family, And let's be honest, 99% of people fucking laughed at me. Impossible. There's no way on this planet. You go on the internet forums, are we ever going to see a half-ton deadlift in our lifetime? Every single person said no. The promoters, the strongman promoters said no. World's Strongest Man said no. The other strongman athletes said no. The fans said no. Everyone said it was impossible. I said it was. And I fucking proved it. You know, I trained my arse off. I didn't dedicate my life to deadlift because I was still training for World's Strongest Man. It was a side quest. But I just thought to myself, I don't like that word. I don't like being told I can't do something. Probably why I was expelled from school and why I was chucked off the swimming squad. I don't like authority. So don't tell me I can't do something. And I hear a lot of people saying I'm not going to knock Thor out as well. I'm going to prove those motherfuckers wrong too. Right, I'd definitely marry Brian Shaw. Just because he's a lovely, big, cuddly guy. I've seen him with his wife. He is so gentle, so kind. So I think I'd love to get cuddled up with Brian at night. Yeah, I think Brian would make a lovely wife. I do. I think he'd be the receiver, by the way. Just making that clear. I think he'd take it. Okay, so what have we got left? Marrying, so we've got shag, marry, kill. Is that right? So shag, kill, Stoltman brothers. Oh God, that's a tough one. I mean, out of the two Stoltman brothers, I'd say like probably Luke's the better looking one, so I'd probably have to shag Luke. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I love Tom, and obviously he's the world's strongest man, but I'm sorry Tom, you get the kill. So there we go. Was that Johnny?
How hard was it to lift the Dinny Stones?
How hard was it to lift the Dinny Stones? It was hard. Have you been up and seen them?
Yeah.
Awesome. Have you tried to lift them?
No.
So for anyone who doesn't know what the Dinny Stones are, in Scotland, over hundreds of generations of families in their own town, they would have, they call them manhood stones. So in Scotland, to become a man in your town, you would have to pick up these stones off the floor and walk them a certain distance, or just hold them or throw them a certain distance, and that's how you prove you're a man in your in the town in Scotland. And there's a pair of stones called the Dinny Stones. It was a man called Donald Dinny who did all these amazing feats of strength. He was a Highland Game champion, I think 40 years, incredible athlete. And yeah, he's got these two stones that he walked across a bridge, the Dinny Stones, and they are hard. They rip my hands apart, they literally ripped the skin off my hands, they cut my legs. But I lifted them and I walked them, I don't know, 8 foot or something like that. Probably one, you know, considering I've lifted half a ton and won the world's strongest man, a very, very hard feat of strength. So great question, thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And on the music. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to say thank you so much for everyone in the room that's attending this weekend.